who's a well-known advocate on behalf of the sex trade here in Vancouver. She works quite extensively with the Vancouver Police as well, doing sensitivity training with the new recruits to sort of teach them the realities of the girls that are working out on the street and elsewhere. So anyways, she's been very involved in something called the PACE Project, which is a project that gives women the opportunity that are in the sex trade an opportunity to get out of the sex trade. One aspect of that.
Isn't PACE closing this year or something?
They might have already closed.
Their office used to be on that way.
These women that came, the 10 women that came, all active in the sex trade, all looking to get out of the sex trade, and what they had chosen for themselves as an alternate skill to learn, because it's a skills issue often, is one of the biggest barriers to getting out of the sex trade. And the skill that they wanted to use was historical research. They wanted to create a history of their own profession from the other point of view. Instead of talking about what it was like for the police, what it was like for the church leaders, what it was like for the newspapers, what was it like for a girl working in a brothel? What was it like for a girl standing on a street corner in 1910 or 1940 or 1960? Actually, really admirable goal. So they wanted to come on my tour because they'd heard that I'd done a bunch of research, and let's find out what he knows, and that can be a start of a framework where then we can orient ourselves and go from there. Well, I'll be honest, we spent the 2-hour tour just doing sex trade stuff. We didn't even talk about anything else. I learned a lot on that tour, let me tell you. Wow. It was inspiring. But it was totally inspiring. But it was really, really neat. And it was really neat to get a chance to spend some time with those women and dispel a number of myths personally that exist, and that I think exist for a lot of people. So we talked about the history of different things and all of that. And there's a few sort of things that they wanted me to bring up on the tour. They actually asked me if I could bring them up in the future, and I will at the end of my little spiel here. Now, the reason that we're stopped here on Alexander Street is because at its height, Alexander Street had the biggest brothel district in the history of Vancouver. 2.5 blocks of nothing but brothels.
St. Patrick comes to mind.
Where?
Yes, indeed.
And her mosaic tile flooring has been boarded up.
It has been boarded up, exactly.
What?
I mean, so we end up with this huge brothel district. But we need to step back just one step so that we can understand what's going on here. So 1906, and the Chinese businessmen in Chinatown are complaining that there's all these brothels in Chinatown. They're complaining because they think it's bringing a bad reputation on Chinatown. It's causing all sorts of disturbance, it's bringing unsavory characters into the neighborhood. All of this is happening. And so, what they do is they pressure City Hall, and City Hall pressures the Chief of Police, and the Chief of Police rounds up the girls in Chinatown. They take them all to the police court, and they all get convicted, right? The conviction, they were given a choice. Either you pay a $50 fine, which none of them could afford, or we put you in jail for a month. But we're going to let you go for 24 hours while you make up your mind. Yeah, the girls left town in an awful hurry, right? And so by later on in 1906, the brothel district is shut down. Now, this sounds like a success for the Chief of Police, but he was actually furious by this. He thought that this was going to cause him more problems than it was going to solve. Because although they'd shut down the brothel district that they knew about, now where was it? We're going to have all new problems, and I can't control that. Chiefs of police in general get to where they are because they're pragmatists, because they recognize the realities, they know what the resource limitations are, they find ways to work. This is not working well for him. So at the end of the year, in his annual report, he actually writes out how unhappy he is, and he submits it as part of his annual report to City Hall. City Hall says, "Good job, but take out that paragraph." I love being the police museum because we have the paragraph. His words live on. So I'm gonna impress you all and recite this from memory. I'll let you guys read along and you can make sure I get it word for word. And by the way, this is written in 1906, so it's a little flowery, the language. You might not get the gist. If you don't, I'll give you the 2009 translation afterwards. So here's what he writes. I venture to submit that the clearing of DuPont Street in Chinatown, which some person so persistently demanded, has not improved the evil so much complained of. For according to reports at hand, prostitutes were never scattered throughout the city to the extent they are at the present time. And to this I attribute to the demand being carried out and to the zeal of certain misguided persons in their anxiety to perform the impossible, the extermination of prostitution. The crucifixion of the evil could not even be accomplished by the apostles, according to St. Paul, far less by any chief of police or any association, however good their intentions.